Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and I'm upset about to talk about Rivera. I was thinking about this as an editorial, but I guess this could apply to the Bears, so we'll get to the Bears stuff last. And look, y'all know me. I don't really rant like that. I get excited about things, but I don't really rant. This probably is a rant. One of the things that pisses me off to no end is this whole discussion about coaches and GMs in the NFL. There's different conversations, but the one that has really got me the last few years is firing coaches in the middle of the season. And so overall, I don't like the idea of it. It doesn't make sense to me. But now you're talking about Ron Rivera being fired and then listening to the owner go and do a whole interview and talk about why he chose to do it. And after listening to the interview, it makes no sense. You did not explain any rationale that made sense for you to fire him. There's 4 more games left in the season. I talked about this last year when they fired Mike McCarthy. I talked about it when they fired, Hugh Jackson. And of course, people can't see past the bushes. They're just like, see, you're an idiot. Hugh Jackson left and they're so good. Yeah, how good are they now? Anyway, so with all that being said, it's not even a preference of coach. It's the idea of how football works. And maybe this is a coaching one-on-one topic, who knows, but you set the tone very early on with the team. Everybody, for some reason, can easily say the team takes on the identity of the head coach. They say it with confidence. They believe it. They say it like it's a fact. But then somehow when it comes to firing people, that goes out of the window. It's like, oh yeah, get rid of them. As I said with Matt Nagy before, even if I feel like we should move on, or if we choose to move on, it should be at the end of the season. Doing it right now changes nothing. You lay the foundation, the bones, the structure of that team early in the offseason. And I'm not talking about, when you first start as a coach. I'm talking about every year is different. Different situations, different rosters. Even if you got most of your team returning, every year is a different animal. It's like making movies. Every movie is a different movie. And so it is so idiotic to sit here and say, well, we're going to fire the coach now and bring in an interim on the staff that is groomed under the same coach, that has taught the same philosophies as the coach you just fired, and we're going to let them take care of it. What sense does that make? And so when you got a team that might be on the edge of turning it around, why do you think that somehow the coach on the staff is going to do a better job? Unless a coach is just belligerent. I've said that. If a coach is like in a crazy situation, yes, you got to remove them. Or if you find out they just weren't doing their job, at that point you should fire yourself too. But either way, if it's not that, how do you expect another coach to come in and do the job? I was listening. It was funny. For me, not First Take, Undisputed is like one of the crappier shows in terms of content, but it's entertaining. But anyway, so one time Skip was like, they need to fire Jason Garrett and promote the DC, who used to be a coordinator for the Seahawks. It's Chris something. And so Shannon Sharp was like, the defense hasn't been performing. If he can't command the troops for the defense, what makes you think he can command the whole team? And Bayless, of course, had a dumb answer that didn't answer anything. But that's literally what this is. What makes you think if a dysfunctional team or non-performing team is being led by a group of men, yes, you had a head coach, but the whole staff does it. If they're being led by that group and they're not performing correctly, what makes you think that removing the head coach and just putting in the same people from that group is going to change anything? And so if you're trying to win, it makes no sense to get rid of a coach. None. Even if you don't agree with certain things, whatever. Even if they make a bad call, they lose a close game, or they get blown out, it makes no sense to remove that coach unless it's an extreme situation. So now that you're losing, it really makes no sense to remove the coach because you're not going to win anything. And so David Tepper is the owner and recent owner. I think it's been like 2 years or something. And so he's talking about, well, okay, we're kind of out of it as far as the playoffs, but I still want to make sure that we're putting a good product out there, blah, blah. What? Okay, so you aren't playoff eligible, and you think you're just going to somehow flip a switch by removing the head coach? It literally accomplishes nothing. It accomplishes zero. And the thing is, even if the team starts playing, even if the interim tweaks some things or goes rogue and brings in a completely different idea, it's not going to last. It's not in the DNA of the team. It's not in the DNA the way the team was built. It's not in the DNA that they were coached and they practice. You can't just, especially this late in the year, you can't just switch week 14 and flip a switch. It's not going to happen. People fall in love with this really cliche and very just erroneous idea that shake things up, and that's how we do it. Yeah, you just got to shake things up. It is beyond idiotic for a lot of reasons, but I'm going to just say it's very dumb to think that, and I won't say dumb, it's very erroneous to think that these players are just sitting in the locker room moping. I know how to play, but I'm just not motivated to play. I just really need something to get me excited to play football. And the idea that, hey, if we just shake things up, that'll do it. Like, that's not how this works. That's not how this sport works at all. And so, once again, you're talking about off-season programs, OTAs. Legally they can't talk to them or they can't work out, but they can still talk to players. It's not college. So you're talking about even before that, coaches are talking to players about schemes. They're looking at film. Trust me, they're looking at film. They're tweaking playbooks. Then you get OTAs. They're showing you how they want to practice this year. They're showing you the routines this year. And then they get into practicing, they get into install, they talk about their favorite play. Like all these things, the bare bones is put in early in. And so you can't just uproot a coach and expect any results. So then to me, the question is, what do you expect to get from removing this coach? And basically, what he said was, we're going to make a move either now or later. And I want to make sure that we get the opportunity to look at as many people as possible. And I don't want to do that I don't want to do that behind Coach Rivera's back. I want to be upfront and honest with people. So let me get this straight. Your idea of being upfront and honest about the situation is firing him with 4 games left. You're not going to let him finish the season for an organization. He's been at for a long time. You're not going to give him the dignity to finish the season with this team of grown men that he has been leading. You're not going to give him dignity to finish the season with a lot of players that have been under him, been drafted by him, and be able to finish and see it through. That's your idea of being upfront and honest? And so then what is stopping you from looking at people while he's coaching? If you are so upfront, it'd be like, okay, this isn't working. We're going to move in another direction. At that point, you are free to look at other people. You can look at other people and not tell them. And that's the whole, I don't want to be behind his back. Then tell them. We're going to start looking at other people. Even if it wasn't a sneaky thing, you could look at other. They probably already been looking at other people. Why is that contingent upon the head coach not being there physically? What changes? He's just not there physically. That doesn't mean anything. And don't give me, oh, that gives him a chance to look at the market. It's still the middle of the season. Y'all not going to the playoffs like you said. So guess what? When playoff time is over and it's Black Monday, you fire him on Black Monday and all the openings are still there and he has a chance to look around. So that is complete BS about we want to make sure we're looking at all the personnel people. You can make calls. You could look at stats. You could talk to people and see who are the hot candidates. You could get a search firm, if you're the Bears. And so you could do all that with Ron Rivera coaching. Because guess what? Somebody still has to coach. So you're like, okay, Ron, we don't want you to be the head coach while we're searching for another head coach. Okay, well, guess what? Whoever's stepping in as the interim, that's the same thing. So you can tell him like, yeah, you go ahead and coach. You know you about to get fired. So just go ahead and do your job until you get fired. You could have said the same thing to Ron Rivera. It's absolutely dumb. Okay, now past that, some other stuff that he said. Two things in particular. So talking about the next head coach or whatever, he's talking a lot about how he shook things up on the business side and they're innovative. And now he was waiting to shake it up on the football side. Okay, cool. So whatever, you the owner, you could do it. So then he said, well, what do you look for? And he said, well, obviously when you're looking for a head coach in today's NFL, the preference is offensive coordinator. But if there's a talented defensive coach, we won't pass him up. Pause, time out. What? And I guess what makes me fired up is because I could look at the writing on the walls. I could read between the lines. I could do all those things and tell you this is what I see in the NFL. But the fact is I'm not in the meetings and I don't have tangible evidence to tell you, look, this is how people are thinking in 2019. This is one of the few times you have an owner being explicit. This is what I've been arguing about when I talked about last year's coaching carousel, when I talked about us looking for a Nagy, when I talked about the Sean McVay effect. People are idiots. They're idiots running these teams. What evidence, anything that you can show me says that you have to have a preference for an offensive coordinator. It is one thing if you said, I have a preference for an offensive coordinator, but it's another when you say in the NFL today, the preference is off. Why? The only thing you can point to, and it's not even that tangible, is Sean McVay. Look at what Sean McVay did. The reason that's not very tangible is because much like quarterbacks, you cannot make an apples to apples comparison of two different teams. What Sean McVay got to do with who he got to do it with is very different than Matt Nagy and the Bears, very different than Matt LaFleur and the Packers. All of these situations are different. And then on top of that, you can see where the Rams are right now. He's not unstoppable. And so you have the Sean McVay effect. You have owners with the power, and we know as Bears fans, owners have power and none of the smart, not, I would say none. Some of them have none of the smarts, but they all have the power. And so it's just statements like that, and this might be small, but it's a bigger problem. Idiots. And you wonder why all these coaches come up out of nowhere, Matt Nagy included, getting jobs that have not earned jobs, that have not put a consistent resume together, and they're getting passed up over qualified people. When's the last time since Harbaugh did you see a special teams coordinator get a head coach job? Yeah, I thought so. So it's just like they've completely eradicated the traditional pipeline, and it's making things worse. Now, personally, I'm a fan of football. I want to see people do well, but it ain't my Bears. We've been affected by it, but it ain't my Bears. So as long as the Bears don't do something stupid like that, I could be okay with it. But it's just so annoying to have proof that these are or this is the way these people are thinking. And then oh my God, and y'all thought I was mad before. This man said, whoever we get or whatever we end up doing, we're going to make sure there's a more analytical approach to the X's and O's. Now, let me pause here. I met Ron Rivera. I met him once at Notre Dame coaching camp in Olin Kreutz, actually. And so I talked with him. Like, again, this is a coaching clinic. I don't know what I said, but it was a coaching clinic. So we're professionals. We're coaches to coaches. We're talking about football. We're talking about X's and O's. We're talking about leading men and all that. Everything he presents on TV, that's how he is. He is a family man. He's a Christian man. He's a military guy. Like, he is very much what you think about Ron Rivera. And so, genuine dude, good dude. Some of the players we seen him interact with that he used to coach for the Bears, and they love him to this day. And that's a real sign of a good coach when you still have relationships after the game is over. And so this dude, I could understand, is very old school, very much defense, very much pound the rock, all those different things. And so I could understand that he might not be as into the analytics as newer people might be. I could 100% agree with that. So you can think any increase in analytic use would probably be a big increase for the Panthers. But I suspect, now I can't say this is what he said, but I suspect they're not talking about a little increase from Riverboat Ron. I think they're talking about a full Houston Rockets analytics approach. And the reason that's a problem to me, even though it's not the Bears, is, again, when it happens with one person, believe other people are thinking the same thing, because these aren't football people. If Jerry Jones says something, hey, we're trying this, I can understand. Jerry Jones is a football person. He's making a football decision. These owners are business people. They're making decisions based off trends, what they hear is hot, what people are selling them on. And so they say analytics, that's what needs to be more incorporated. And look, we got advanced stats. I don't like them. We got a lot more analytics and data driven, and this is completely outside of football, because I do a lot of data and assessment in the work I do in real life. And the difference between people making decisions with data and using data to help make a decision is huge. That's why you have fans on here just pulling up stats to make a point, and then the next year the player doesn't have the stat, and they're like, wait, what happened? I thought he was good because he had this stat, and they don't actually understand the rest of it. That's what's happening. And so now you want to crunch numbers to decide X's and O's. It's a bad look. It's a bad look. I'm trying not to get too heated about it because it's not widespread, but it's a bad look, and it's just another thing that's not going to help football. So I've went a while, and I haven't even talked about the Bear stuff. So the natural question is, what about him? What about Ron Rivera coaching for the Bears? And my thoughts about that. Now, I've made it clear, hopefully. I personally think if you were to ask me to capture our talent right now, or our window of talent, we should probably move on from Nagy. He's just not experienced enough. I don't feel like he's going to become experienced enough by next year. But if that's not the aggressive move to push for a Super Bowl, then let him continue to grow. That is nothing against Nagy. It's just the facts. And so I'm not sitting here like fire Nagy. We need somebody else. That's not what I'm saying. So then the question is, well, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to keep him. But the question is, if he was to go, a lot of people said, like, which coach? And look, trust, I barely got time to do this. I'm not sitting around like keeping tabs on all these coaches. As I said, I believe any veteran head coach that has had a record of handling the team could step into this team with this amount of talent and make it work. And I mean on all levels. I mean understanding how to switch the schemes, to fit what you want to do, but also keep it similar to what the players like doing. I mean, bringing in a guy on the opposite side of the football of you and being able to work with them to make it gel, and being, most importantly, being able to prepare your team and get a winning culture. Do I think Ron Rivera fits that? Hell yes. Hell yes, he does. And this is why I really didn't answer the question also, because I don't know who's available at, week 10. I have to wait till the end of the season. And so now you see this and you'll see more openings. Do I think this fits the bill? Hell yes, this fits the bill. This fits the bill. Now, the thing is, usually in these situations when you're trying to capture a window, it doesn't last long, especially when you bring in a vet to kind of take over somebody else's roster. So it could be a competitive 2-3 years, and then it might have to blow up after that. But that's the price you pay at trying to capture a window. I don't think this is a place that Rivera lays his groundwork in and stays for 10 years, because I don't think Pace would like that. And I think Pace would eventually get fired. And when Pace got fired, so would Rivera. So it wouldn't be long. But if you're talking about a guy, like I said, that knows, number one, how to make an attitude on a team, to compete and to do things right, that's Ron Rivera. If you're talking about a guy who's seen situations and knows how to prepare a team, he's not the best at it. He's not Belichick or anything, but Ron Rivera's definitely got that. And then you're talking about a guy that can make the most out of our defensive talent. That's Ron Rivera. And Ron Rivera, I saw him struggle early on, and of course it hasn't been working the last few years, but he's won Coach of the Year twice. They went to the Super Bowl. He's had success. So it's not like he don't know how to coach. I seen him struggle early on, but I seen him mature past just being a defensive coordinator who's now head coach into becoming a head coach. And talking to him in person really makes me understand, and he knows what it means to lead a team. And that is the biggest thing people don't understand. They think head coach means it's a football game. I'm offense coordinator, I control the offense. I'm defense coordinator, I control defense. I'm the head coach, I control both, and I just play on both. No, it's managerial. You're basically a manager. You have to manage relationships. You have to manage egos. You have to manage the coaching staff. You have to make decisions about logistics, practice, everything. That's what a head coach is. And Nagy is an offensive coordinator. I think Rivera is a head coach. Then you got the whole Chicago tie-in. I think it would be a beautiful fit. I do think it would be a beautiful fit. So anyway, that's enough. Go to comment section. Let me know what you think about the firing. Let me know what you think about I think it's a very slim chance it happens. But if we were to get Rivera, what would you think about that? Go to comment section, let me know. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.